All right, welcome in. It is Wednesday. Happy New Year, everybody. The last show of 2025. Um, Rob Vino, we hit the parlay yesterday. A great call by you on the under in Air Force, Wyoming. That was never close. Easy under. And Seattle ended up pulling away for me to hit the parlay leg. Unfortunately, despite having a great number on UMass, my 5%er fell short. But you know what? We'll could continue to plug along. It's a long season, and we flip the calendar to 2026 tomorrow, but still one more day in 2025 to try to add some units to the 2025 ledger. And looking forward to breaking down the games with you today. How's your week going so far?
It was really good in college basketball yesterday because besides the Wyoming Air Force total under, we also hit the Louisville team total over last night against Cal. Louisville gets to 90. Number was 83.5. Looked a little soft. Turned out to be so. College basketball has been really good this month, Adam. In excess of 64% wins in college hoops since December 1. So the month has provided, I think, about 25 units. Been very, very good. So we hope to keep that rolling here today with, again, what's an excessively large card with a whole bunch of early games on New Year's Eve as these kids look to get to the local gin mill by the time, by the time New Year's hits.
Well, yeah, that. And of course, Rob, we've got to cater to college football. I'm sure some of that has to do with the college football playoff resuming tonight and sort of getting the most of the stage. There's actually a pretty good game. I'm sure we'll probably get to it at some point that's in that sort of primetime spot. But I'm going to start early. So we were kind of joking off air. I don't know if this is the feature game for everyone today, but it's certainly the feature game for me, or for a lot of people that follow the ACC, that live in Central New York, maybe that live in South Carolina. Rob, I got to point something out. So Clemson Syracuse has become this, like, it's not a rivalry, but I feel like Syracuse treats it like a rivalry. I don't know if it's because Joe Girard left and went to Clemson. Every year, Clemson seems to be the biggest football game on the schedule. These two teams are not rivals, but I will say that Cuse cares about this game. Like, it's a bigger game than it should be for Syracuse, like, just for whatever reason. Clemson comes to the Dome today, 2 p.m. national TV, which is why I wanted to, kind of put this in the top spot here. It is, I can't understate, this is such a massive game for Syracuse. Donnie Freeman is back. They've been teasing his return, Rob, it's like a WWE vignette, right? Like they've been running his return for weeks, like, Undertaker coming back at the pay-per-view. He comes out, he warms up, he goes through the motions, you see him out in the court, and then he doesn't play. But that's all been by design. So you texted me, you're like, man, Freeman might change some things, him being back. Rob, I think he could have come back 2 weeks ago, but I don't think there was any reason to play him against Stonehill. Maybe should have played him against Hofstra. That was a bad result for Syracuse, but we talked about it yesterday. All is forgiven for teams like Cuse if you can come out and do it in conference play. I'll let you kick this one off. Does Syracuse get it done in their ACC opener?
Well, it's an interesting matchup. And the time, obviously, Adam, these teams do play a whole bunch of day games during their seasons. But when it's a Wednesday afternoon at 2:00, something just feels a little bit different about it. They've been through preseason tournaments and whatnot where time schedules are odd. So I don't know that right off the bat is going to have any effect on any of these games that are played today, with a whole bulk of them being played early. That being said, the one thing that sticks out here drastically like a sore thumb from a totals perspective is the amount of unders being racked up by these two teams. Syracuse team total 1-7 to the under over the course of their last 8 games. You could attribute a lot of that to Freeman's absence, I'm sure. The point spread record just 1-4 over the course of their last 5. But like you mentioned, everything changes here. Conference season, best player back in the lineup. The one thing I worry about with situations like this, and we talk about it a lot in the NBA, on the NBA show with colleague and friend of ours, Ski Profit, that when you take a key player and you get used to playing without them for 9 games, things do change, and then the team starts to become cohesive without said player. And then they return. And initially, upon return, things don't always go smoothly. It's a kind of a reintegration process into the lineup. So while Freeman's return is a huge boost, you just don't know how it's going to go very first game out, especially first half. If there's something that's going to go wrong for Syracuse, if there's going to be some miscommunication, et cetera, to me, it would be first half, get into the locker room, everybody settled again, come back second half. To that extent, I think Clemson first half could be a pretty good play here. Cuse is going to be a fired up crowd. Obviously, the atmosphere. Again, we talk a lot about venue proof. These ACC teams walk into these venues all the time. Not that huge of a deal. Especially Brownell's had this team for quite some time. He's a pretty settling coach. So to me, I would look two ways here. I'd probably look toward the under in this contest. I think both teams very good defensively in my mind. And we've talked about Syracuse's ability to protect at the rim before. So I think that's good for both sides here. And for Brownell's team, they've sort of taken on the identity that they had for the bulk of his tenure here at Clemson to begin with. I mean, he's been there, I don't know how many years, but I'm going to say about 80% of that they were spent being a methodical, defensive, low-scoring minded team. And then that changed the last couple of years. They became a little bit better high-scoring, sort of out of character for Brad Brownell. But I think they're back to that type of team. You do have some conference fight for an opener here, which to me usually breeds more defense, more tenaciousness on that end of the floor. So I would probably look that way as a full game under. You're staring at 142 and a half. I would caution by saying this. If you like under, I'd sit and wait. Because the more the minutes go by this morning, the more the hours go by this morning up until game time, more people are going to come in with over because Donnie Freeman's playing. That's what's going to boost this total up, and you get a better number, probably closer to tip-off than you do at this point. But I would think it's probably a lower scoring game. Low 70s wins it, and you could stick under 142 and a half. And I think Clemson first half might be a look. I just don't trust. I've seen it too many times. Your star player comes back, and the cohesiveness is sort of out of kilter at the beginning of the return, but maybe second half Syracuse, you can get a good number on that if you're an end game guy.
Well, Rob, I do agree with that point from a general standpoint, but I think in Syracuse's case, you would have had to have a cohesive offense to begin with, right? So it's like they're not losing any offensive cohesiveness because this isn't a cohesive offense to begin with. Actually, like if Freeman is 100%, and he's not on any sort of minutes restriction, and he's allowed to play his normal game, his inclusion is a massive boost for Syracuse because you are probably right about this total and the way that this game is going to go. It is like Syracuse, they're all about defense this year. They want to slow the game down. This is not the Judah Mintz Syracuse team that wants to get up and down the floor and run. They'd rather operate in the half court and play like a slower, more methodical game. Like Freeman lets you do that offensively. Like that is when Donnie Freeman's on the floor, like that's the kind of game they'll likely play. Half court, and the goal will be to get the ball to him. And then guys like, the shooters will kind of hang out and they'll it'll be less, they'll have less to do. Like right now you've got a Syracuse offense that I don't think has a true go-to guy from a scoring standpoint, but with Freeman on the floor, it can definitely be him. And he gives them some half-court juice in the offense. At the other end of the floor, and I've said this really since the beginning really since the Players Era tournament, Rob, this Syracuse team can defend. William Kyle is a monster, and the guards are like the defense, 100% man-to-man. They don't play zone anymore. So that's the thing. Like when Autry took over for Boeheim, he always wanted to go man-to-man. but he just didn't have the guys to play it, and he would revert back into what became a very sloppy version of the 2-3 that sort of defined Syracuse for all those years. It's all man-to-man. William Kyle III, elite rim protector, like elite post rim guy. They're going to be able to get stops against Clemson. I took Syracuse +2. This is going to be my leg of the parlay. Earlier this morning, he could have got 2.5 at FanDuel. I think Cuse is going to go off a favorite here. I think they actually are flipping to favorite right now. So I've got Syracuse +2. For the parlay, we're going to go Syracuse money line. We'll just call it. It's minus 115. It looks like is going to be good for the parlay. This game is so massive for Syracuse. Like Red Autry's going to get run out of town. He might not get back to his car if they lose this game. The fan base here has had enough. There's literally countdowns on Syracuse Twitter to him being fired, which would be coincide with the end of the season. It's NCAA tournament or bust. And I just think you had the win over Tennessee, but to follow it up with the loss to Hofstra, puts you back to square one. Syracuse has to come out and have a good start to conference play. They lost. So the game I referenced, I was at this game 2 years ago. It was, of course, Joe Girard coming back to the Dome. Autry in a close game decided to foul Girard. 7 straight possessions, let him close the game out on the line. 90+% free throw shooter. Huge disparity in coaching. Autry's a horrific coach. Okay. There's no doubt about that. He's a bad coach. Brad Brownell, great coach. But I do think this matchup and having Freeman back is a very favorable to Syracuse. So this is a client play for me. So for the you don't give enough actual picks crowd, there you go. Client play Syracuse +2. Parlay leg is going to be Syracuse on the money line. All right, we're off to a hot start here. We've already got a client play given out. First leg of the parlay locked in. And I think it's going to be a big one today. National TV, ESPN2, 2 p.m. Let's go to the chat here, and let's see. There's a lot of we'll get to there's a lot of big games. We'll get to some of the smaller ones. I gotta give my guy Sean. I don't know if he's watching right now, but he tweeted at me a minute ago, and he is a big Dayton fan. And I misread his tweet. He actually said, "Trig, we need more Dayton gear out of you on the show." I actually have a great Dayton hoodie. Problem is they haven't given me much reason to wear it this season. I am a little down on Dayton being like a power in the A10. I'm a little down on the A10, right? Like you've got VCU in a transition year. Loyola Chicago has just been horrific. Absolutely has had one of the worst non-conferences in recent memory for a team that was actually projected to be pretty good. But the A10 starts today. Dayton is laying a big number to Fordham at the UD Arena, one of my favorite places that I've been to watch a game to this point. So Rob, talk to me a little A10 hoops. Do you have anything for us on Fordham Dayton for Sean on Twitter?
Well, we can say this right off the bat. Money has come in on Fordham, 18 down to 16.5, probably rightfully so, Adam. I think you can seriously question Fordham's schedule up until this point. I mean, you pointed out some concerns about Dayton, but you could take this 9-4 record that Fordham's posted, and you could poke all kinds of holes in it if you want to do strength of schedule argument, because they just haven't played anybody in the class of what they're going to see here today. A bunch of Northeast type schools that are middling, or I guess Iona would be the best team that they've played so far. And, Iona, they don't win that game on the road either. So the question really in this one, Adam, becomes, and I would fall into that category, by the way, with Fordham, strength of schedule does matter in this contest. However, 16.5 matters as well. The way they play, at the tempo that they play, you can keep a game pretty slow and limit possessions, and 16.5 becomes larger. It's interesting to me that Anthony Grant, who, for the majority of his career, Adam, has been one of these snail type pace coaches, but their games this year when you go through their log, are kind of sporadic. High scoring, low scoring, high scoring, low scoring. It's almost like Dayton doesn't have a true identity here. However, they have played a much tougher schedule. To say this is a severe step down in class, it might even be an understatement from what Dayton has seen so far. The likes of Cincinnati, the likes of BYU, Virginia, FSU, etc. So really the number becomes the great equalizer here, or in my case, what you tend to look at is total. This total here is 137.5, but I'm going to do you one better. I really think that in this instance for Dayton, the step down in defensive class matters. They're on their home floor. I don't know that Fordham will be able to walk it up for 40 minutes. That just doesn't seem likely, especially if you're in chase mode. You have to try and catch up by scoring buckets. Dayton's team total here is 76.5. To me, seems a tick low. If to see them get to 78, 79 here, I don't think would be that much of a stretch of the imagination. So if I were to play just for your buddy who wants to know a little bit about what I feel on this Dayton game and what you feel, I think Dayton team total is probably the way I would look in that game, up and over 76.5.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with that from a totals perspective. You talked about Fordham's non-conference schedule, and it is you're talking about like poking holes in it. I mean, I just have to pull this up to make it sure. I think they opened their year with a loss to New Jersey Institute of Technology. So you've got like 9-4. I mean, that is a horrific loss. That is a bad team out of an America East Conference that's like historically bad this year. Like that's, those types of results are massive concerns. I did watch them play Iona. They were pretty impressive in that game despite losing. But like, I guess for me, this is Mike Magpio now at Fordham. So it's like so where my number is, I guess the point, let me backtrack a little bit. I'm showing like pretty serious value on Fordham at 17 from, if we're just doing a straight handicapping numbers perspective, I've got this closer to 13, but my number, remember yesterday, I said, man, there's a handful of teams where my number's probably off. Okay. And I feel like Fordham is probably one of them. Reason being, very high on Magpio. I loved him in his last stop, which was Riverside, UC Riverside, I think he came from.
It was west. Yeah, it was out west.
Yeah. Fully expect him to like do well at Fordham, but like it's clearly taking some, it's clear it could take him a whole season. It could take him, 2 seasons, right? You're talking about a Fordham team going into the A10 that's near the bottom of the A10 in terms of like if you were to power rate all these teams. And this is a team that got beat by New Jersey Institute of Technology, was not really that competitive with Colgate, right? Like kind of lost that game. That was up in a neutral court in Canada, but still like wasn't really competitive with Colgate. And then they lose to Holy Cross, which is, Holy Cross is in rebuilding mode at the bottom of the Patriot League, 11.5 point underdog there. So yeah, that's really concerning to me, like some of those non-conference results, because now if you're Fordham, you're stepping up in class to take on, when you're playing the top half of the A10, it's a pretty big jump in class. So if I were totally trusting of my Fordham number, I would take the 17 points all day here. I know that UD Arena, I've been on a Friday night. That's awesome. Electric. UD Arena on a Wednesday at 2 p.m. might not have the same juice. Students not there. So again, I think there's absolutely number value on Fordham. It's the only way I could bet this game from a spread perspective. I just don't know if I'll get to the window with it. But certainly going to be interesting to see how Dayton starts A10 play. Because again, I wasn't really impressed with the Flyers in non-conference play this year. Okay, we'll move on to another game in just a second. First, we have, I guess I have, I missed my 5%er yesterday with UMass for basketball, but football has been tremendous for me over the last couple of months. I'm 8-1 in my last 9 college football plays. I do have a college football 5%er today. Football 5% in general for me have been awesome. I had the 49ers. on Sunday. Rob, I joke with you. I'm like, I can't hit a free throw to cover a basketball game to save my life. But when I need to stop Caleb Williams on the 4-yard line to close out 49ers -3, no problem. It's just how it's been running for me. Hopefully it continues today. My big play will be in football today, in college football. But I've already given you Syracuse, and I'm going to give out a lot of free basketball, whether it be on the show or on my page at WagerTalk. So that 5%ers up at WagerTalk. On that same page, you can find free picks, and I'm going to post a couple of things there today. So check that out. Rob, do you have anything to promote for the people here?
I will real quick. I'll go in kind of that same order, Adam. The bowl season, obviously, the next 2 days is huge. I have multiple best bet releases up and available on my page, or I have one currently. There will be more posted after the show. But if you want a free look at the game that goes at noon Eastern time, Iowa Vanderbilt, I do have a solo video posted on WagerTalk TV on this Iowa Vanderbilt game, which has taken a massive hit this morning toward the underdog side. So if you want to get a free play with analysis on that particular game, go ahead and check it out on WagerTalk TV. Again, college football best bet releases will be up, including one that's already there for this afternoon's action. College hoop, I mentioned it to you, Adam. The month of December has been so good. So if you want to find college hoop plays, go ahead and check out the homepage. NBA, NFL. I know you've had a good NFL season. We're probably both inside that top 3 because I know I ranked number 2 regular season and number 1 overall since preseason. So it's football's been good as well. Check it all out. WagerTalk.com. Actually, my homepage, wt.buzz/RV.
All right. I got Rob. So they put the joint package for us up. It's called Double the CBB Firepower. But the thing is, they were not going. So I'm going to give you guys a little hack here. That package is heavily discounted. It is 3 days. It's all the college hoop that myself and Rob Vino have for any 3-day stretch. But if you do it today, I think you can still use the site-wide coupons on it, even though it's heavily discounted, which you're not supposed to be able to do. So you can actually get, originally that package would be $118. It's already marked down to $59. And if you go on and use I think it's new 25, there's a couple of coupons that are still good until midnight tonight. It cuts it down considerably. So I said I wouldn't mention it, but here I am mentioning it. Listen, it's New Year's Eve. There's only 12 hours left for that coupon to be good. So that will take that. You're not supposed to get the double discount, I guess is the thing. But they didn't want to have to throw it up tomorrow when I think some people might have the day off or, it's a holiday. So we put it up there today. It's heavily discounted and you can use the site-wide coupon on it. So go do that. If you're looking for 3 days of college hoops picks from us, as I moving around spastically here and messed up my camera. So we're back. That's up on both of our page and you'll get everything from myself and Rob, I think we do a thorough job in the analysis on those plays, just like we do on this show. So, check that out. And we hope to have a good 3-day run whenever you decide to do that. Plenty of games the next 3 days, lots of day games. And we'd love to have you riding along with us. Okay, let's go to this one. Let's go back to the ACC because Rob, I feel like I was going to use this as the feature until I kind of decided I was going to bet Syracuse today and then hijack the feature segment to give out my play. So let's do this. I want to talk Will Wade for a second. This one goes at noon. This is one where it's just to me, I think NC State could destroy this team here. And I guess what I want to get your take on is Will Wade and where this NC State team is at right now. They go to Maui. They give up 1 trillion points in the Maui Invitational. They come back and have a couple of kind of heartbreaking results, right? The Kansas game, probably one that would have been a signature win. Auburn was one they had a chance in. And so now they start conference play. To me, NC State looks better than they did a month ago. And the kind of crazy thing about that is they have not gotten much recently from Darian Williams, who didn't play against Texas Southern. You had a play in that game. They scored a 120 anyway for you. And he was he was very ineffective against Ole Miss. 27 minutes, 0 for 8 from the field, scored just 1 point. Where are you at on NC State right now? Are you going to lay this big number with them? Do you think this is where you buy Will Wade and the Wolfpack?
Well, money indicates that NC State's the choice of the people early on this morning. 8.5 opener, now up to NC State -10 in a multitude of venues. 9.5, 10. I even see a straight 10.5 out there. So money's come in on NC State. I think, and again, because I look at these games first from a totals perspective, what I don't understand here is the slight movement toward under 159.5 down to 157.5. I brought up earlier the times of these games today. Adam, you brought up the fact that a lot of these gyms in the middle of the afternoon, what would be crowded at a night game with kids on campus, will be less crowded or probably filled with, as I know in Raleigh, because I have family down in Raleigh, it'll be filled with a bunch of non-students. And that gym should stay, while it won't be as loud, it will certainly be pretty much full for this ACC game. But I don't understand the move toward under here. I really don't. I think NC State, and listen, NC State could change from now till mid-February. We're going to see a lot of teams that we're talking about now, great offense, lousy defense, et cetera, that in mid-February we'll be saying the exact opposite because coaching will take effect at that point. But I don't think NC State's a good defensive team at this point in time. And the pace this game is going to be played at, Steve Forbes' team still goes up and down pretty quick. It's interesting to me, Adam, again, that overall statistics can fool a lot of people, right? For instance, Wake Forest coming into this game, mid-50s in the nation in three-point defense allowed. But you almost have to go back and dissect every single team they've played. I mean, if you just go back one game, you'll find Vanderbilt made 16 of 32 against them. So how good are they really? They gave up 50% threes to Vandy, a team that can shoot them. Guess what? NC State can shoot them. So I don't know that I take a lot of credence with their three-point defense. I don't know that I put a lot of credence into any facet of NC State's defense. I think they both want to get up and down. I think they both want to play high octane. I don't know that either side defends. I think both sides foul a lot. We'll see some free throws here. Again, 6 weeks from now, if this was a conference game where teams were jockeying for conference tournament seedings, I might speak differently about it. But here, I think 157.5 is too low. Hasn't made the client card. Could make what I would call my personal, when I start opening up apps a little later and making plays, maybe I make a play toward over here. But I just see this as a high-scoring game. To ask these sides to get somewhere in the vicinity, NC State's going to find mid-80s, I would almost guarantee. Wake Forest will likely chase them in this game. Wake Forest is off a really bad offensive performance against Vanderbilt. Little bounce back there. I see this one going over the total.
Yeah, another thing Syracuse fans are just beside themselves about is the fact that Autry pretty much ran Kadir Copeland out of town, when he took over for Boeheim, and he's just been awesome. Goes to McNeese State, Wade brings him with him to NC State, and he's kind of quietly been one of their best players this year. I'll go back to the beginning of the season and just kind of double, I feel triple down at this point on something without I've talked about at the beginning of the season. I'm really high on NC State still. I don't think we've seen NC State play even close to their best ball. I think the defense has been a concern, and it probably still will be, Rob. I'm not arguing with an over at all here. I still think there's some concerns on the defensive end, and the teams, I thought they defended pretty well in that Kansas game. Held Kansas under 80. I know Kansas didn't have their full complement of players, but held Ole Miss to 62. They're definitely making strides in that department. If you go back to again and Maui, it's how much can you even fault them for giving up 102 to Texas in Maui when every three went in? They think they hit 16 threes in that game. I still think NC State's underrated. If they get listen, if this team gets what they're supposed to get out of Darian Williams, who's supposed to be their best player, is their best player, right? Like leads the team in scoring 14.8 points per game. NC State's really good. Like 9.5, which is where this opened, was short based on my number. I think I'd still lay 10. I think it's the defense, Rob, that sort of scares me off a little bit from like clicking NC State minus 10 as a client play, knowing that, Wake Forest could kind of scrap around and, get in there late. I think Wake Forest recently got destroyed too. I think Vandy.
Yeah.
I don't know. And Wade is I've been to noon games at Lenovo Center, or it used to be PNC Arena. Right. You're right. It's the same crowd. This is not on campus. This is just in Raleigh. You'll get like the same crowd that you would normally get for this game. I'll call it NC State by double digits. Probably won't be client play, but I'll call it NC State double digit win here for the Wolfpack. Okay, let's go to a different. We've talked some ACC. Let's get down to. Let's go to that sort of primetime game that I forget what network it is, but one of the networks is going to put it up against college football tonight. And that's over in the Big East. Yesterday, we talked about how, this is not a great year for the Big East. Outside of UConn, it is it's rough. And Marquette, man, again, they might need to cancel the season at this point, Rob. They might need to just hang it up. But couple Big East teams that still have a reasonably good outlook are going to play tonight. FS1, Fox is going to put it up against the football game, 8 p.m. It'll be the final game, Rob, of the 2025 calendar year in college basketball. This one's in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And, this was a game last year. I think St. John's at one point was up like 40-10 against Georgetown. From what I remember, it was not the best matchup for Georgetown last year. However, I think this Georgetown team has improved, and I'll kind of go back to what I've said on multiple occasions. It always feels like St. John's is laying a premium number. Rob, why does this team continue to lay premium numbers when they don't cover these big numbers? That's my question for you.
Yeah, and I just think it's brand name, right? It's Rick Pitino. It's St. John's. It's St. John's going into the NCAA tournament a couple of rounds last year. It's St. John's being highly recognized last year as a really good team, and then the carryover that comes with it. And I think it's a combo plan, right? It's the I hate to use the word squares. I can't do that, but it's the public perception, I'll put it that way, of Georgetown still not being back, not recognized as being a better team this year. And there's a couple of results that would keep you in that camp if you were not a intense daily college basketball follower. I mean, if you're Georgetown at this point in time, what we've seen out of Xavier, which has been very up and down. As soon as we thought they were good, they weren't. You're at home and you lose to Xavier. You play a good North Carolina team, you don't show up, you lose by 20. You play a good Miami team, you don't show up, you lose by 13. You play Dayton, who you just talked about being not one of your favorite squads this season, and you lose to Dayton in OT. So you mix that with results like a win over Clemson and a win against Maryland, who actually Buzz Williams has had a difficult time at Maryland, but still, you're getting the point here. Georgetown has not lived up to the preseason expectations yet. Now, I'm going to take something you said early because I thoroughly agree. These slates all get wiped clean with conference season. And a lot of this stuff, this is why it's difficult for me in the non-conference preseason early schedule, is that these coaches with the influx of players nowadays and the new rosters, the roster turnover that you're dealing with, it's what I like to call experimentation evaluation time for a lot of these teams in preparation for this game tonight. And just coming from this area, and I know yourself a New Yorker, but if I go back 40 some odd years, it's no different today when St. John's and Georgetown play, the rivalry, the intensity, et cetera, than it was when Lou Carnesecca and John Thompson were roaming the sidelines. Those teams were better, but the intensity is the same. This is a Big East true rivalry. I think you'll see that type of emotion, that type of intensity tonight. It would make me very, very leery of laying points with St. John's, who's still, Adam, for what it's worth. I know last year they were a worse shooting team, but they still haven't shown me that they're a above average shooting team yet. I know statistics say one thing, but when you watch with your eyes, you see what you see. And I don't know that they're, unless they're creating a lot of steals and easy points, I don't know that they're capable of huge separation against this particular team because they don't turn it over. I think Georgetown is number 1 in the country in turnover percentage committed. They just don't turn it over. So with no easy buckets for St. John's, or at least a minimal amount of easy buckets coming for St. John's, I would have to lean Georgetown in that game.
Yeah, and I mean, we're a little reverse here. Usually, you're the one that comes in with a totals lean, and I'm like talking about the side here. I kind of find that the number is I've talked about St. John's having slightly inflated numbers this year, but like my math here comes out, I'm pretty much right at 9.5 where this opened. That being said, the game I was referencing last year, there was a point where like Georgetown, it was very late in the first half, and they only had 11 points against the St. John's defense. That game, I think these teams may have played. I think they played twice last year. Yeah, everyone in the Big East should pretty much play twice, but I'm pretty sure that both. I don't remember the other meeting as much, but one of them, Georgetown straight up could not score. They were down by 30 points very quickly. And the point is, if Georgetown's going to be able to defend and get stops, like I'm pretty confident that Georgetown is not going to go off offensively against St. John's in the way that they defend. So for me, Rob, a rare kind of pretty strong total opinion. I would be shocked if this one gets over this total. Kind of like the under here.
Yeah, and I think, again, to that point, Adam, as I look and see that it's that the market went the other way, and I think we pushed back against the market with one a couple of days ago, 151 up to 155.5 now as we speak. And again, for St. John's, let's just take their side for a second. For them to score big, you've got to get into the 80s if you're going to cover this number or get this game over the total. For them to get into the 80s, there's got to be some easy points along the way. And I just don't know with Georgetown's ability to handle the basketball that there's going to be enough easy points to get their score high enough and Georgetown's high enough to get over. Somebody thinks it's an over game. I don't know that I would agree, but I do think 9 to Georgetown is probably a little excessive in this case.
Yeah, I'd be have absolutely no idea why that would move in that direction, especially where it opened. Like, it's not like it was it was already a pretty high number. I would be I'm in very, very much disagreement with how the market is seeing that game. This feels like a low scoring, ugly Ed Cooley trying to do anything he can to just like make this a game that you want to turn off and go to the football game. Like that's what I think, the game plan will be for Georgetown. He wants an ugly game, low scoring. I think that's Georgetown's path to covering as well. I got to throw this comment up. Joe, you're right. Joe Barbino, probably the understatement of the chat right now. UConn, they're going to absolutely just run roughshod through the Big East this year. Like that's, Rob, it's going to be. What do you say? I think I make the line. UConn to not lose a Big East game. I think I'd have it like minus 150. I really think it's like that high. Like who is like who would they even be an underdog to? No one, probably. They got to be favored in every single game,
right? And
it's like we're at the point. And I'll segue here into this game, 5 p.m. on the Peacock app. So get your apps ready. You got to have 17 apps to make sure you can watch all your games. But like I'm looking through this schedule, and then you start to look at. So they win their Big East opener against DePaul. Butler was no problem, 19-point win. Again, we're a little bit of ways into the Big East schedule now, but like you look at like these are the types of games. Like if UConn is going to lose a game in the Big East, you have to think it's Friday night at St. John's at MSG, right? Like these are the types of games. But the problem is outside of like St. John's, I don't know, maybe Seton Hall could be tricky, like for a road trip. Like, are these teams like these are the types of games that typically could represent a slip up, right? The Xaviers, the Marquettes, the Providences, the Georgetowns, Nova. UConn's a 12-point road favorite here at Xavier. I mean, they very well might run the table in this conference this year. As far as this game is concerned, or we've talked about Pitino. I am impressed with what he's done relative to what this team looked like the first couple weeks of the season. Rob, do they have enough juice to keep it within 12 with one of the best teams in the country here?
My thought is no. And I'll tell you why, Adam. When they made the run a couple of years ago, and I think they played San Diego State for the national championship, I believe it was. But during that run, what UConn was great at was the game is close, and within 4 minutes, it's not close anymore. They would separate so fast that it make your head spin, and the other team had no chance to get in. And their opportunity here tonight, defensively and offensively, to create separation with 1 3.5, 4 minute burst is, I don't want to say definitely going to happen, but it's extremely possible against this Xavier team, which against this defense, I feel will have offensive lulls, will have offensive turnover spells, will have limited rebounding on their offensive end. I don't see Xavier getting a lot of second chances against UConn with the pair of centers that they have. So for me, it's just a matter of time in this game. Is it going to happen first half? Is it going to happen second half? You're not going to out-coach Dan Hurley. Xavier's not going to out-athlete Connecticut. I think anything Xavier can do, Connecticut does better, maybe twofold, maybe threefold. And we've talked about the depth, Adam. This is the thing, because even if Connecticut gets into foul trouble, the guys coming off the bench, the replacements, it's like having 2 first-team units. And in all honesty, and I don't want to sound, like a Enquirer headline, so to speak, National Enquirer headline, but the second team at UConn could maybe push the first team at Xavier for starting positions. I mean, it's that good. So even if you have guys, I'm sure Hurley's going to disperse minutes the right way. But their ability to score, their ability to defend, their ability to create margin tells me this is at least an 18-point game in favor of UConn. Something in the realm of, 84-66 wouldn't surprise me in this game. So I would think, and again, I'm just staring at these line movements. UConn opened 12 down to 11.5. I mean, I don't know. It's not my money. So good luck to the guy whose money it is, or people whose money it is. But I don't think I would be taking points with Xavier here, home or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big, how I bet, and just it's not generally my style to come out and lay 12 on the road, day game on New Year's Eve, like maybe a spot not fully focused, but like that's the only thing I would do here. I'm kind of with you. I was closer to 15 on the number for this one. So the fact that you can actually get 11.5 at Caesar, like a lot of these places are 11.5 right now. Kind of feels like a bargain for just if you're looking at like the caliber of team that UConn is against what Xavier's, which again, Xavier's, they're going in the right direction, in my opinion.
Right.
But this is like, I mean, this is the scenario where the only way UConn, in my opinion, doesn't win by double digits is if they're so uninterested in this game that they just like go through the motions and win by 8 or something like that, right? So like, do you really want to bet? Like, would you really want to take Xavier in that sort of, under those circumstances? Like, I just don't think there's any chance Xavier wins this game. And I think the window of like being able to cover is probably small. Like you said, sort of feels like there's a knockout punch for UConn at some point. Joey Cheese here, isn't he? He said, I agree. He goes back to my original comment, like Stewart, MSG is going to be all UConn fans. There won't be any UConn fans in Cincinnati today, or probably very few. But he says no cap. Champs 6-10 bench wins the Big East. I mean, that's an ambitious comment, but like let's put it this way: their bench might win the Big East this year. They're not going to go unbeaten, but they could certainly win the league with the state of the league right now. It's like Slick Vic, UConn's offense isn't impressive. Thing is, like, UConn doesn't even need to play their best offensive game to win this game by double digits. Like, that is the gap between UConn and Xavier right now. I had this 15. I could only lay the points with the Huskies here.
Yeah, Let's go to Steve. I'll add to
go ahead. Yeah.
I'll just add that, if you're playing Xavier, we've talked about long layoffs in the month of December. UConn's had 10 days off, maybe some rust. I don't know. Just knowing Dan Hurley, I'm sure he's ridden this team hard toward this game, no matter who Xavier is. Xavier, 11 days off. So Richard Pitino's obviously used that as practice time as well. I just thought Mike Tyson had the famous saying, you always have a game plan until you get punched in the mouth. I think Xavier will have a game plan until they get out on the floor and realize we don't have the personnel. And I think to start the season, it was you who talked about their lack of personnel, really. It's just not a Xavier team. It's a good coach trying to make some headway, but I don't see it happening. And for the comment of offense is not impressive so far, man, I don't know. I think they've got some pretty impressive offensive players. Maybe we haven't seen the best of UConn's offense as of yet, but led by Caravan and Solo Ball and Demery, and then with Braylon Mullins, the freshman, doing what he's doing already. Kind of think UConn has a lot in the tank here.
Yeah, listen, the only thing, so yeah, they do not have the personnel. Pitino knows they don't. Like, this is very much this year is very much a build for next year. So the one positive I'll say about Xavier here is that they're probably playing this game with house money right from the tip, where it's like they expect to get killed. There's no pressure on them. Like, they can literally, I think Richard Pitino is kind of like, created the atmosphere there, or at least a mentality like, we want to have some fun this year. Keep it light. Like, when they lost that game, he goes to Twitter and says, defense F-, right? Administrative staff A+. Like, but the problem with that is, at some point, lack of talent does matter. Just go look at the Creighton score from the other day. Cintas Center, 98-57 Creighton on that floor. So it's like, to me, I wouldn't want to bet that like Xavier just has their day here. I'd much rather roll with just the far superior side in UConn. All right, Rob, we've still got time. Here's what we're going to do. Since I've already locked my parlay leg in, I want to go to one more game. A couple people have asked about this one, and then we'll have plenty of time for you to have the floor for your parlay pick. Reason I want to bring this game up is there's some differing opinions on this one in the chat, and I had my own sort of tough time with this game, and it ultimately kept it off. I thought I was really going to like North Texas today. They were as high as 11.5 earlier. I don't love Penny Hardaway as a big favorite, and North Texas has always been a kind of a team that I've gravitated toward as an underdog, scrappy underdog. I feel like they typically play Memphis tough. But what ultimately kept me off, Rob, is Ross Hodge is now in West Virginia, right? This is a slightly different North Texas team. I don't know that they're as good defensively as they were during the Hodge, or certainly the McCaslin years. And so to me, it's like, and the other thing, Rob, Memphis just, this team knows how to rip my heart out. They do it every time I fade Memphis. They find a way to cover by a half point. So I really leaned heavily toward North Texas plus 11.5. I missed that number. It's now down to 10.5. I might, if this gets back to 11, maybe I jump in, because I do think that's a lot of points in a game that's likely slow. But I want to get your take on this. North Texas, do you like the side or the total? How do you feel about Penny as a big favorite today?
Well, I agree with a lot of the sentiments you had right there, Adam. It's difficult for me to ever lay points with Penny. It's almost like, and we've talked a lot about Penny Hardaway this season, but it is like there's a distinct role where he's best. and it's as the underdog against a sort of like a power team or an elite team, where Memphis, which generally does have the athleticism to match up in most cases, they perform real well. Then you want to lay huge points with them, and their lack of shooting shows up. They start bricking things. They don't shoot free throw, et cetera, with Memphis. So whenever they're in this price range, the initial look for me would be toward the underdog, even though I'm not a huge side player. And when you have a team like North Texas, and again, I think you spelled it out really well, that they're just not the same exact defensive minded team, but they're still in that mold, like slow, methodical, play D, limit possessions, etc. And during Hardaway's tenure at Memphis, they seem to fall into those traps. And Memphis is another one of those teams where it's hard to get their fingerprint, so to speak, or their thumbprint or their identity, because when they need to play fast, they're capable of playing fast. When a team comes at them with slow, they don't handle it real well. If it were me and I were going to look and I were going to bet, I would look to the dog side here. And I think Memphis is always happy to win by 8 rather than 11, et cetera, on down the line. So for me, it would be that way. I don't think it'll be high scoring because, again, like I said earlier, Memphis generally falls into the trap of the slower team, whether it be on their home floor, whether it be on the road. They rebound it well. I would think that the underdog would be the side that I would look at. Again, didn't play. But I'll hold the floor here while I have it and just give you a second leg of the parlay so we can get that out of the way real quick. And I'll go to a favorite of ours where I think, man, I mean, these team totals, when I scan the board overnight and early morning, there seems to always be one that pops out to me as kind of low, even though the number itself might not sound low, but it seems low to me. And I'm going to go to Fran McCaffery and Penn, the Penn Quakers. It's on the extra board. They play NJIT today.
It's my guy. That's my guy.
And Fran's got the offense sparking a little bit. I mean, Penn's played better recently in an overall sense. But I'm just going to list here. I mean, NJIT, you talked about earlier, it's a bad basketball team, and they're susceptible to a really fast tempo, good shooting. In this case, Penn is a 3-point shooting team, much in the mold. Don't have Iowa's athletes, don't get me wrong, but he's building, kind of the same style that he built at Iowa. NJIT gave up 86 to Navy, 94 to Cincinnati, 104 to Louisville, 89 to High Point, 101 to Butler, and the kicker, 81 to Fairleigh Dickinson. For Penn to get to 83 here on their home floor against a team that they should find a ton of open looks against and probably knock those down, I don't see any reason why they can't get to 83 in this game. It seems to me that it's a game where I think a couple of times in my analysis of these team totals, I have said that it's a game where the coach wants to just stomp somebody. I think we did that with Will Wade that night, right? Will Wade was PO'd about his defense, and they came back and scored that 102 or 100 plus that night. I think McCaffrey just wants to step on somebody here, and he's never been one to let off the gas. If they're up by 20, he'd just as soon be up by 30. It's a team that won't slow down. So for me, team total here today, guys, NJIT, Penn. I'm taking Penn at home. Team total over 82.5.
Yeah, if you listen, the reason Fran McCaffrey is my guy, of course, is he provided Siena College, now Siena University, with the best years in the history of the program. He was Siena's head coach for 5 years, took us to 3 NCAA tournaments, beat teams like Vanderbilt, Ohio State, and I happened to be a student during that time. So it was just, I'm always going to be a Fran McCaffrey guy. You're 100% right that he does have that, he's going to want to blow someone out to, Penn, to their credit. So what I want to point out about this game is they've been without Ethan Roberts. Okay. Ethan Roberts is the best. He is like the hub of their offense. He is their best scorer by a mile. And without him, so, Rob, we've made this point where it's like the further removed you get from a guy being out, the less that it's, the less impactful it is. But without Ethan Roberts, Penn lost to Rutgers by 1 and lost to George Mason by 4, both road games. They were in both games. I really didn't think the offense looked that different, right? The Lafayette game where they barely won with the first game that he was out post, he's been out with a concussion, was the one where I thought the offense had a hard time getting going. But even though the last two games, they've only scored 70 and 79 points, that's on the road to a Big Ten team. And that is on the road at George Mason, who is very, very good. You want to talk about, we touched on the A-10 earlier. George Mason might be your A-10 champs this year. Like some of those other teams being a little bit down might open the door for George Mason to win that league this year. So 83-79, highly competitive game. Penn falls just short, and they were in that game every step of the way. I agree with you. They're at home here. They kind of need to, they've lost 4 of their last 5, but the losses, Hofstra, Nova, Rutgers, George Mason, like they're losing to teams that are a cut above them in terms of, like, we talk about weight class, right? Like Hofstra is sort of in their realm, but teams like Villanova, Rutgers, George Mason are all going to represent a step up for them. NJIT is a big step down. I mean, if you look at this Penn schedule this year, and I'm just looking at it quickly, this is probably the worst team they've played yet this year. This was the only team on their schedule that was an easier matchup than NJIT was D3 Rowan, which they scored 120 points, right? Like that's the only team that I think would be rated worse. Like if you look at KenPom ratings and power ratings, NJIT should be rated lower than any other team that Penn has played this year. I'm kind of with you. I think Penn might run them out, probably a 20-point win. So maybe you could lay it with Penn, but your team total, I think, is good. And you've been so hot with the team totals. Who am I to question a Rob Vino team total at this point? So yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, I try to, you brought up a point that I should have, but when we get up against the clock, I try and kind of cut out half of the stuff that I want to say. But to your point about George Mason, to put into context what scoring 79 against George Mason is on the road in their building, that's one of the better defenses that, and not just, but one of the better mid-major defenses. Let's put it that way. When you put up 79 against them, you're actually doing something. And, you talked about step down in class, et cetera. Even Rutgers' strong defensive team just seems to make a lot of sense that Penn will get at least mid-80s here tonight.
Rob, well, we'll give this, we're going to wrap it up, and we've already got the parlay locked in. I'll recap it at the end of the show, but so we can, kind of finish the full handicap on Penn NJIT. Taylor asks, if we can't get team totals on the extra board, would you take full game over or Penn against the spread? My answer is Penn against the spread, because I think that they're pissed, and I think, going back to what you said, I feel like Fran, and knowing, having met Fran a number of times personally, and just kind of knowing how he is, like, I think he's going to be like, hey, like we need, this has got to be a 20-point. This has got to be like keep the foot on the gas type win. So I would lay the points if I couldn't get the team total. What about you? Would you rather have the game total or the spread if you can't get the team total?
Well, game total means I have to trust NJIT to do their part.
Yeah.
And if I get 85 out of Penn, then I need 66 out of NJIT, which isn't out of the realm of possibility. But the question is, how much of a probability do you put in that happening? I would probably, and again, I didn't play it, but I'd probably be more comfortable on the Penn side laying it. And one last thing I'm going to add to this, Adam, is that their conference season starts next game. And these are all situational, right? They're going to play Princeton. But the question is always, do you throttle it down before conference season starts, or do you throttle it up so that your team goes into conference season on a high confident note? And I think this is a case where Fran throttles it up, wants to go into that Princeton game, certainly off of a confidence building. Like if you beat, I don't care who it is, if you beat them by 30, you walk into your next game thinking you're pretty good. So I would think that Penn sidewise would be the way I would choose.
And here's the thing, Ethan Roberts, it was a concussion. So you never, like, he could pop up today and suddenly, I mean, he's probably worth 3 points to the number, right? Like, you never know. I don't know that they're going to rush him back, but it wasn't like his injury was a concussion, and those things are tricky. Like it's different for everyone, but I'm sure they listen, Fran is he wants him back out there. So if the second he's cleared, he's back on the court. It's not a physical injury. Like it's as soon as he's cleared, he's playing. So keep an eye on that as well. His status could only help Penn and could only help the over. And one more point, Tariq Francis, who was NJIT's best scorer last year, now at Rutgers, they didn't really replace the scoring, right? Like they've got guys that can be scrappy at times, but scoring is not probably what you want to trust NJIT to do. So I'm with you, Rob. I like that Penn team total. If you can't get Penn on the team total, look for some way to incorporate Penn spread because I think they just do what they want in this game. All right, we're at the top of the hour. Happy New Year, everyone. We'll see you guys next year, which is tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for more full court press. 2-team parlay, Syracuse money line for me. It's a client play for me, but I did go +2 for the clients. So, just we're going to go money line for the parlay. Rob is going to go Penn team total over 82.5. Let's see if we can hit another one to close the year out. Plus 6.16 units on these this season after yesterday's win. And either way, we'll see you guys in the morning. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Happy New Year. Have a great night. We'll see you in the morning.